Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Shaun of the Dead here. I don't want to butcher my one of my people's names here. I'm going to call you Ants. It is actually it's spelled. He actually has the Ants has the own YouTube channel. It's KROGZAXANTS, and it's all about ants and ant colonies and stuff like that. Great music in the background, by the way. I was digging the music. Ants sent a couple comments, and we kind of go over some of the comments. And this is in regards to weapons. This is what weapons would you use in scavenging, for scavenging run in a zombie apocalypse? Well, this individual is from the Netherlands, and so firearms are not legal. So weapons that he would be using to hunt with is his Matthews Guinness bow, 4 Nighthawk knives, and a normal hammer, and of course flashlights, multi-tool, and use a hand bow instead of a gun, obviously, because he doesn't have the ability for firearms, and also because it's more stealthy and silent, and that's a priority. He said that, let's see here, he says, you really made me think a lot about everything. You showed some flaws that I had in my plan, and said thank you, you're most welcome. And I continually do that. As I sit around and muse, I'm like, man, what about this? Oh crap, I need to change my gear. And I'll start changing my gear. I just changed my bug out bag for my last camping excursion because my gear was insufficient. I bought a piece of gear that failed me in the field. It broke down. It was a butane torch. I was going to use that as a backup lighter for emergencies. It's like, if I don't want to get out there and strike or light a match or whatever, I want to just go, psh, I got some damp wood. Psh, there, I got fire. Done. You know, and that's what I wanted to do, is I wanted to make a quick fire because I just got out there, and I wanted to have some light because it was dark, and it was hot, but it was dark. And I was like, I'll make a small campfire, I'll set up camp, and I'll have some light. What happened? So yeah, that was kind of a downer, and still can't get the thing to work. I don't know what happened to it, but it was a horrible piece of crap. So yeah, I'm always changing my tools. Also, I'm always changing my plans around. I am definitely a bug out guy. I do not like to bug in, but jumping in the middle of a blender is freaking suicide. And he makes mention of that in one of his other things. I'm going to put up another video besides this one that talks about bugging out versus bugging in and answer some of the other questions on that. But this is just particularly about what weapons to use if you happen to live in a country that does not allow you any firearm access. So here we go. Like Ants was showing, bows, crossbows, great things. Knives, obviously, machetes if you can get them. Hammers, great. If you can get a ball bat, cricket bat, depending on what part of the world you're in. If you can get a bit of wood, you know, get yourself a 2x4. Take part of it, shave it down smooth, make a grip out of it, cover it in like cloth tape or something. Something that you might wrap hockey stick in or something, right? So you wrap that up. You can even drive nails through it. So you have some little spikes sticking out of the end. You don't want them too big, because then, you know, if you have too many spikes sticking into something, you know, it's going to create, you know, too much of a grip, and they might bend as they go in. So you might be looking at bent nails, and now you can't pull your stick back out. So you want to keep them short enough that, you know, they can go in, but at the same time you can pull them back out, and they're probably short enough they're not going to actually bend once they get into the skull because they've had too much trauma. Now, also, they have to be just long enough that they can get in there long enough that they can actually hit and actually get into the skull and actually destroy the brain portion of it, which is what your main goal is anyway. And you might not even want to go with that route. You might want to go with something like you're taking your framing hammer or something. It's a good hunk of steel hammer, good chunky hammer, and grind down the edge to a point. Instead of a point, you want a point. So that way it doesn't go in like deep and go protrude in and get potential for stuck. You have it like this, where it cracks the skull, flays open the skull, and exposes the brain, and taps that brain, and back out it comes, and you can go for your next swing. So you can even do that. Get yourself a decent sized hammer that maybe has dual hammer heads, so you can have dual spikes, so you can literally go back and forth. Whichever way you happen to be holding the hammer, you have a 50-50 chance of hitting flat or on one of your 2 points. That's one of the things. And knives are highly, highly important. I carry a 511 First Responder. I love this knife. I've had it for a long time. It's tartan steel, G10 handle. I love this thing. This is a really, really beefy knife. Here's my iPhone to give you a representation of how thick this blade really is. Relatively thick. I have abused this knife, and it is still solid. Doesn't bend, nice liner lock. This is a very trustworthy knife. Now, I want to mention something about knives. And this is a chunk. This is a beefy freaking knife. This is my personal little combat knife. I've got the straighted edge to it. Also, it's a spear point. You can get the spear point of the tattoo. I happened to pick this up on LAPolicegear.com for $50 whenever they were on closeout. Now if you can find them for $100, you're lucky. They're really, really hard to find. And if you find them, you're going to be paying at least $100. Thing about these knives, any knives in general, is people in movies and TV shows and stuff, like Walking Dead and numerous other movies, they always pull out fracking swords and they're like beheading zombies. They pull out like a pocket knife and say, yeah, boom, yeah, got that sucker, and they stabbing them through the foreheads, right? Unless it's necrotic and rotted, and you can poke your finger through it, you're not going to be able to just jab your knife through the skull. It's not going to happen. This knife here, whenever it was relatively sharp at the time, right now it's pretty dull because I've been abusing it lately. Back here's sharper, up here's, I've been defrosting the fridge at work, chopping at it and stabbing at it. So, and ice has been about that thick in there, so I've been chopping at it for a while. So, this edge is down a little bit, but it was relatively sharp. About as sharp as it is on the rear portion of it now. And I shot a 6-point buck, and we went up there, and I was going to shoot it I was going to shoot it again in the head, put it out of its misery. My buddy was like, no, we'll cut its throat and bleed it out. And he's hunted a lot more than me, so I was like, all right, well, you know more about hunting than I do, so I'm going to follow your advice. So he's like, you have a knife? I'm like, yeah. And so I hand him my knife. He opens my knife and he takes it to the deer's throat. And he sticks it in and cuts the deer's throat. When he jams it in, he's like wiggling, seesawing back and forth. It was kind of gruesome. I was like, just let me shoot it, dude. And he's like, no, don't waste the bullet. I'm like, waste the bullet? Hell, I don't want to make the animal suffer. So we had a little difference of opinion there. But he did go ahead and sever the throat. And that just shows how strong hide is. And of course now a deer has deer hide and hair, and it's not like our skin, which is a little softer, but still, that's just skin. That wasn't going through bone. It wasn't. I wasn't skinning it, flaying anything with it. I sure wasn't stabbing it through the skull. I mean, and it was hard for him to even pierce with the point. It was hard for him to pierce the throat. So, just to kind of give you a heads up, jabbing something in the head with a knife, probably not a good idea. What's probably going to happen is you're going to hit something. It's going to be hard, and depending on what kind of grip you have, your hand may slide forward into the knife itself, and you may cut yourself. So be very, very wary on your knives. Knives are for defending yourself against living things, unless you can get it in an eye socket or potentially through the temple and the soft part of the skull, and you can get a good shot one way or the other into it and scramble the brain a little bit, then you're probably not going to be using a knife into a zombie because it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, if you have a machete or something, then yeah, you can split a wig with a machete. You may or may not get it stuck depending upon, for one, how much hair the person has, if they're wearing a cap, if they're wearing a hat, if they're wearing any kind of head, a beanie, who knows, balaclava, depending on what part of the world you're in. You have no idea what's going to stop between the skin and anything else that's going on in there. You might really stick your weapon. Now, we did find out from my other video that coconuts with nothing on top, no coconut shell around the nut itself, just the coconut, they'll split like that. Easy peasy, not a problem. So there's the point on that. Now, let's go ahead and turn up the volume a little bit. Here we go. You got bows, you got crossbows, hand crossbows. Now, step into the world of slingshot. This is my recommendation to you. You said you live on a terrace, which to me, at least what I'm familiar with as far as terrace is concerned, is it's a balcony. I can sit out on my outside balcony and I can overlook my yard. Well, if you have that kind of ability in your neighborhood and you have a backyard and you can see throughout your backyard and you have a good slingshot, I can go to a local sporting goods store here, I don't know about there, and pick up these elastic straps, so like rubber straps, and you can put them under your feet and you can do curls with them, and you can do all kinds of crazy exercises with these things. And they have different weights, and they're delineated by different colors or whatever. I think black is like the heaviest weight one here. So you go and you buy your heaviest weight, and that's your I guess you wouldn't call it restringing because it's not a bow, but that's your new elastic strapping for your slingshot. So you can either make your slingshot like the guy on YouTube that makes his out of metal, or if you buy one, whatever. If you got a wrist rocket where you have the wrist stand, that's good. And you want something that's going to fire. Well, that guy on YouTube, he, I believe, gets his up to the velocity of a .22 long rifle. So that's pretty powerful. And we'll go through the ballistics and all that at a later date. But one thing you can also do, I watched Dave Canterbury doing this, is you can actually take some string on both sides and you just take a keychain, just the loop of the keychain, and put it in the middle of the Y of your slingshot, and you still have your slingshot. Well, you can put an arrow through that hole in that keychain and put the nock of the arrow inside the leather pouch, and you can pull it back and you can launch arrows out of your slingshot. And then he takes the string, slides it down, and it droops down, and then he can use it as a regular slingshot, and you can slide it back up and use it as a bow. So it gives you a dual function. So if you already have a bow, you can still utilize your arrows with it. If you're trying to kill something and you want to take down like an animal, if you happen to find an animal. And if you're just trying to shoot something in the head. Plus you can sit up on top of your balcony and shoot it into targets, and let the targets hit and let the ammo fall down into buckets, and you can collect your ammo and just go back up there and keep reusing your ammo and practice. Because like you said, you can't just learn how to drive by theory, you have to practice. So just food for thought on some weapons. Stay tuned for the next video. And as always, give me your comments, and as always, don't forget, subscribe.